videotape it. I'm allowed to stand on the street and videotape. Freedom of press.
The foundation is circulating the amateur video, which was obtained from an unknown source.
Did you see the whole thing on the video? Do you have it on the video?
I can't fight the future.
This is one private citizen. It's a little surprising that the government doesn't seem able to keep up with him.
This is Bill Fitzgerald at The Rest of the Story, and I would like to welcome you to our first podcast. Growing in numbers and growing in speed, that's exactly what citizen journalists have been doing ever since 2000 when Omai News was launched in South Korea. Omai News is usually referred to as the original citizen journalist site. They launched in 2000 with a simple motto that anyone can be a reporter. In other words, anyone that registered with their site could submit their news articles and they would be published. At the time, they were referred to as an experiment in citizen journalism, and it was a very successful experiment. Within only a couple of years, they were receiving over 2 million readers a day, and even the diplomats in Korea were saying that they couldn't afford to ignore Omai News because they had as much pull with public opinion as any other form of media. In other words, the citizen voices could not be ignored. Since that time, Omai News has grown into the largest CJ site on the internet today, and they now have Omai News International, which is an English language version of the site that will publish articles from anyone, anywhere in the world. This unique experiment led to the creation of hundreds of citizen journalist sites across the internet. Some of the more notable are Newsvine, Now Public, and one of my personal favorites, thedigitaljournal.com. The Digital Journal was launched originally in 1998 as a tech news site, and it wasn't long before the readers started asking to be part of the news gathering process. In response to their readers' request in 2006, they opened the doors for the readers to submit their own articles on a variety of news topics, and this resulted in about 40,000 original articles and 157,000 user comments being generated by the end of 2007, original articles that wouldn't exist without citizen journalists. Now just think about those numbers for a minute. 40,000 original articles written in a relatively short period of time with 157,000 reader comments. This shows the dedication of the citizen journalists that wrote the articles and the enthusiasm of the public being allowed to be involved in the news gathering process and add their voice and opinion to it. After all, how many times have we been sitting there talking to our television set or our newspaper because we disagreed with the way they'd handled a story, or we felt like there was a story they were not reporting that they should be? Now, like I said, this is just a couple of the more notable ones. There are literally hundreds of CJ sites around the internet in a variety of languages. But let's talk about an unintentional yet major player in citizen journalism. If I say YouTube, for many of you, the last thing that will come to mind will be news. However, an unintended side effect of creating this fun video sharing site was a fast and easy outlet for news videos, whether they were cell phone videos caught in the middle of a breaking news story or citizen journalists producing and publishing their own video news shows. This caught on so well, in fact, that YouTube now has a citizen news channel and also has a news manager. Let me play you a quick soundbite of what she had to say in her introductory video.
Hey YouTube, my name is Olivia and I am so excited to be here. News on YouTube is huge and it's getting bigger every single day. It's unbelievable to see how people are using YouTube to report and comment on events happening all over the world. No longer do you have to be a seasoned journalist or a paid commentator to make waves in the news. Everyday citizens are serving as reporters, covering news stories from every angle.
You can see the full video by going to Citizen News on YouTube. Now, I'm sure you noticed that she said average citizens, not professional news teams with million-dollar satellite trucks and $50,000 cameras, just average people with their cell phone or camcorder bringing the video news to the world. And don't think this has gone unnoticed or without benefit for the mainstream media. After all, how many cell phone videos have you seen on your favorite news channel in the past couple of years? Videos that without everyday average people would have just been an interview after the fact. Mainstream media's interest in citizen journalism is more evident in MSNBC's acquisition of Newsvine, a small but innovative CJ site, and I might add that was MSNBC's first acquisition, and also with CNN launching iReports.com, both of which are maintained solely as CJ-generated news sites. Let me read you this 2003 post from We Media just to demonstrate how fast this partnership between citizen journalism and mainstream media has begun to evolve. We are at the beginning of the golden age of journalism, but it is not journalism as we have known it. Media futurists have predicted that by 2021, citizens will produce 50% of all news peer-to-peer. However, mainstream news media have yet to meaningfully adopt or experiment with these new forms. Historically, journalists have been charged with informing the democracy, but their future will depend not only on how well they inform, but how well they encourage and enable conversation with citizens. That is the challenge. Now, again, that was a 2003 post, but here it is only 5 years later, and mainstream media is partnering with citizen journalism, once again demonstrating how citizen voices cannot be ignored. After all, when you did disagree with your local TV news or your newspaper, could you add your voice to the story? In citizen journalism, you always have the option to add your views and opinions, and usually get a response from the writer and other readers of the article, thereby allowing you to be engaged in the news process, something that before citizen journalism would have been practically impossible. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, man, this sounds great and I'd love to get involved and write my own news, but how do I know when a story is newsworthy? I think the About page at CNN's iReports answered this question best when they said that news is just something that happens to someone somewhere. Whether that something is newsworthy or not depends on who it affects and who is making the decision. As a citizen journalist, you're making the decision. And if you can honestly tell yourself that you believe that story is newsworthy, then there will be others that will agree with you. Whether you're a soldier on the front lines in Iraq or just sitting in on the local town hall meeting reporting it in a way that the mainstream media may not. In either case, your stories are no less important than anyone else's. And with that in mind, I would encourage you to write that article, create that video or podcast, and inform and engage the public, making your voice heard. Now, this was intended only to be a brief introductory podcast, and again, I would like to thank you for listening. I would also like to take this opportunity to invite you to join us at The Rest of the Story by going to therestofthestory.ning.com or trotsnews.com for short. And I would also like to invite you to join us next week when I will be bringing you a report on the Richmond Caritas program, which provides food and shelter for area homeless through a partnership with local churches. Until then, best wishes and make your voice heard through citizen journalism.